Appreciate everybody's time today. This will be informative. It'll be fun. Hopefully, you'll leave with some knowledge here. We really appreciate our partnership with Dean Dortner Ford. I actually live in Lexington, Kentucky, which is the home office of Dean Dortner Ford. So, been aware of them for a long time. And then I've been with Bill.com. I still call it Bill.com. I've been with Bill.com for 3 years now. I'm a sales engineer, or what they call a solution consultant. So do a lot of these demos. In my previous life, I was a ERP accounting solution consultant. So looking forward to talking about Bill and how we'll integrate with your accounting solutions, specifically around nonprofits, in the sense that we work with so many nonprofits and with partnerships like Dean Dortner. And I'm sorry, I called it Dean Dortner Ford. That's what it used to be for me too. So I've got both of the old names, Bill.com and Dean Dortner Ford. I know that they've changed their name too. So we are Bill and they are Dean Dortner. But let's get right into it today. So, the object of yeah, you know me, there's me there. The object today is to kind of talk through a use case of nonprofits, what we're seeing in the nonprofit space with Bill and with accounting solutions, how we're going to help automate that AP. And really that's for two objectives. How do we make it easier to receive these bills from vendors, get them coded, get them routed for approval with the least amount of touches, with accuracy, without errors. And then secondly, how are we going to pay these vendors in the cheapest, most streamlined way? Again, we're going to talk about that integration that we have with accounting solutions like Intact, like QuickBooks, and then we'll open it up for some Q&A. Our case study, which we'll email out, revolves around Network Community Ministries, right? And when they came to Bill, they were dealing with just a lot of paper, 20 hours a week for AP, checks, printing checks out, putting them in the mailbox, hoping they get delivered. And when they came to us, we're, again, going to eliminate a lot of that data entry. We're going to make it extremely easy to pay vendors via ACH. We even help now on the W-9 collection. So especially, and that's pretty large for our nonprofits, we'll help collect those W-9s and 1099s if that's needed. Sometimes it's not needed, right? And then we also can facilitate check payment. So for even some of those organizations that that won't accept electronic payments, we will make sure that payments can be delivered. And then just a lot more visibility to your AP liabilities. We do this around our, 4-step process, right? And I kind of draw the line in the middle here, what I talked about at the start. How do we help automate your data entry? And then how do we make it easy to pay? Excuse me. And we do that by capturing those bills. You're going to have an inbox where all bills can be funneled. We have the ability to route bills specifically for approval. And then we're going to pay those bills and reconcile with your accounting solution. So I'd like to take the rest of the time, because this is where I spend most of my time, really making it feel comfortable to look through the solution. Let me make sure I'm sharing the appropriate screen there. Yeah, there we go. And I want to spend time allowing you all to understand what it feels like to be in Bill, and then what it feels like to integrate with your accounting solution. We have plug and plays with most of your accounting solutions. So specifically Intact and QuickBooks is where we see a lot of our clients in the nonprofit space. We could share this documentation there of what we call a two-way integration, meaning Bill.com is really an extension of your Intact or your QuickBooks, right? If you create a chart of account in your accounting solution, it shows up in bill.com. These integrations happen automatically every 24 hours or whenever a user in bill.com hits this sync button. So the two systems are communicating all the time. We're making sure that the data is correct and accurate. And those integrations that we have with those two solutions have been around for many, many, many years, right? We've been in the space for 20 years, and we're really committed to Intact and to QuickBooks. That's our focus. That's where we want to play. So those integrations are really deep in regards to vendor onboarding, right? When you get a new vendor, we're going to talk through some of that. If you create that vendor in Bill, we create it in the accounting solution. But when you're initially in Bill, right, from a dashboard perspective, you'll be able to see a little bit of aging, some of the bills that you need to pay and how long they've been in the system. We also have bill approvals, right? And we'll age those bill approvals. So Mr. Allen here has 15 bills that have been in his queue for more than 10 days. And at any time, you can drill down and give Alan a little reminder that he has bills that he needs to approve. Your users, your approvers in bill.com have the ability to change how often we're notifying them, right? They can get a summary about all the bills they need to pay that day. Some people like to just get a weekly summary. They'll have the ability based on those options to decide how often the system is pinging them, right, to remind them of bills they need to approve. We also have a mobile app, which I'll go through here quickly, that makes approving those bills a breeze. We work also on the accounts receivable side. Today, we're going to focus on AP. The accounts receivable side that we have within Bill is not as big of a need in the nonprofit space. So, we typically don't discuss it, but if it is something you need, it's there. There's no additional cost to using the accounts receivable side. But as users log into Bill, they'll have a role in the system, right? Admins, accountants, approvers. And depending on their role, we're going to give them a task list that lets them know the action items they need to take action against that day. Do they have bills that are overdue? Do they have bills that need to be addressed? Do they have some payment approvals they need to do, which we'll talk about? But the taskbar really is that springboard to action for every single user. But the fun part, right? The fun part about Bill starts at the inbox level, okay? So every Bill.com account has their own Bill.com email address. So here, my organization is called Mach5 LLC. And so Bill.com gives me an email address, mach5@bill.com. You'll have the ability to customize this, whatever you like at Bill.com. And many of you probably already have an accounts payable email address, and that's good. Keep it. Hey, Mr. and Mrs. Vendor, please send us your bills to this email address. That is the best way to get those bills. It's the most automated way. It saves paper. You don't have to scan anything in. And keep that, right? You could create forwarding rules in Outlook or Gmail to forward those bills right into Bill.com's email address. And we're monitoring that email address. And we're grabbing every email that comes in and capturing the attachments there. And when we do that, we are trying to code that bill. That's an accounting term, right? We're trying to fill out all the information that we need automatically as much as we can, right? And so when we're monitoring that email address, we're grabbing that PDF attachment, that PNG file, that JPEG file, and we can capture data off of those documents. We'll grab other types of files, but what we can actually extract data off of are those three file formats, so PDF, JPEG, and PNG file. You'll notice here that we're capturing vendor name, invoice number, invoice date, due date, and amount. And we do it at a really high clip. And we're using a mixture of OCR, machine learning, and the new buzzword, right, AI. We do have AI that we've added within the last year to Bill.com, and we're going to just keep expanding that. AI capabilities to be able to capture the data off of the PDF. We'll also attempt to code the bill, select those GL accounts, those expense lines, based on the previous bill that came through for that vendor. Okay. So again, trying to eliminate a lot of that data entry. What's kind of neat about our system is that if we did not capture a particular field, maybe it was something we missed, you have the ability to highlight that data on the document, click and click again, and that's what's called click and capture. So it does two things. It eliminates data entry errors. It also helps our AI engine becomes smarter on this particular vendor's bill. So then the next time Hacienda Design sends a bill in, we'll know the invoice number is there. From here, I can click and capture my amounts out, and now this bill's ready to go. Okay. If I needed to add a GL account, a chart of account here, I can. All of my chart of accounts for my accounting solution are here. If I need to remove a row, I can remove a row as well. Now, again, we're trying to eliminate 80 to 90% of that data entry when you're creating a bill. The body of the email will also be visible here within bill.com. And one of the reasons we see a lot of growth in the nonprofit space, again, goes back to that integration with accounting solutions, right? Specifically, we see like within Intact, with our Intact clients, they will have a field, maybe it's a custom field called grants, where when they're receiving bills from vendors, they need to maybe track that spend to a grant. And grant might be what's called a user-defined field in Intact, or it might take over, a department field or things like that. You'll have the ability to code in detail down to those user-defined dimensions so that you can track your spend per grants. That's just one example that we see in nonprofits. But to have that flexibility with Bill and how we're integrating with those accounting solutions is really nice. One thing that's pretty nice too about the system that a lot of people don't know about is you can also do arithmetic in our cells. What that means is any numerical field in Bill.com, if you want to do 250 divided by 2 and tab off, we'll calculate it sort of like Excel, which is pretty nice. But I want to go back to how you're receiving bills from vendors. Email is one of the ways, and it's the most convenient way. Have them send emails to and forward them into bill.com. You also have the ability to drag and drop PDFs. I have another monitor over here. I've grabbed a PDF, and it's going to automatically extract information off of that PDF in real time here. Typically, that could take 2 to 10 seconds. Sometimes I've been on webinars where it could take maybe 30 seconds and we're sitting here looking at something spin, but typically it's 2 seconds like you just saw there. And if we look at that PDF, this is one I just dropped in and it's from 2022, but you could see it's captured all of that data automatically for me, right? If we believe it's coded to 1 GL, we'll set out the amounts. We will identify duplicates as well. Like if I go and upload that PDF again, you'll see that it'll mark it as a multiple copy, which is really convenient. So you don't have to worry about, well, have I received this bill or not? We'll let you know right off the bat if it's a duplicate or if it's a multiple copy, and you can delete those right out of here. And lastly, you could just generate a bill without a document. Like if you just need to get a bill in, you could generate one without a document. But if you do have that PDF, I like to show this too, because you'll see we're extracting it in real time. You'll notice those lightning bolts there. If we give it a second, it'll fill out all that information. So that first part of that 4-step process is capturing those bills. How are we helping you all as an organization eliminate a lot of that data entry? The second piece there is, okay, well, let's route it for approval. And we have 2 approvals in bill.com. We have bill approval, which is the most common. And then we have payment approvals, okay? We'll speak mostly around bill approvals because that's the most common, but when we get to payments, we'll discuss that as well. And this is really important on our nonprofits because that audit trail, because those controls are so important. Bill.com has our SOC 1 and SOC 2 PCI compliance. Segregation of duties is a huge deal to us. And Again, another reason why we're growing in the nonprofit space is because those controls are so important. So you have the ability to assign individual approvers if you want. You also have the ability to assign groups. So if I have a group in my organization, typically this is around departments, right? I have a group per department. You can create a department group in Bill.com and add as many individuals as you want there. And then when you assign that group to the bill, everyone in that group will receive an email notification. Only one person from that group has to approve it for it to move on to the next step. And it's not fully approved until all of those individuals have approved it. Take Intact, for example. You have the ability to set when you want Bill.com to sync those bills to Intact. For example, you might not want a bill to sync to Intact if it's not approved yet, right? So you might say, I only want approved bills synced in. Or you might say, no, I want visibility to them the moment they hit Bill.com, and you can choose that setting as well. So here I've got a 3-step approval process. I can remove the ones I added, but notice that I can't remove the executive team. And that's because of a policy that is put in place. So within Bill.com, you have the ability to create routing rules that will route bills to specific approvers and approvers groups based on the criteria of the bill. An example of that is if I go in here and I choose catering, you'll notice that my name gets added to the bill, right? And so the reason that is because I have a policy that says Jay is in charge of the department catering. Any bills that come in that match catering need to be routed to him, and it will automatically add me as an approver. You have the ability to set these approvals based on bill amount, vendors, chart of accounts, departments, location, and you could get really granular. You might say, for these 3 vendors, when it's over this amount and it's coded to these GLs, it goes there. Now that's pretty granular, right? That's pretty in the weeds. Or you could keep it really generic, which some of our nonprofits make it really generic. It's like, look, it's these 3 individuals every time. There's really no guesswork. And you can go ahead and put those rules in place to route them to the correct individuals. Now, most of our approvals, actually was talking to the product team a couple weeks ago, 80% of our bill approvals happen in the mobile app, okay? Which I was surprised about. I thought it would be more like 60-40, just because I'm in the browser version a lot. I don't use the mobile app a lot. But most of our approvals happen in the mobile app. So for nonprofits, this is really nice where look, they need to get in, they need to be able to see those bills, they need to be able to drill down into the individual transactions, see the document, right? Maybe add notes if they need to, which they can, and they can tag other individuals in those notes. If they deny the bill, if they deny that bill, they have to apply a note. And when an individual denies a bill, whoever did that initial review in the inbox gets notified that a bill was denied, as well as the admins, right? Another thing that's pretty convenient about the mobile app is if you don't have access to a scanner, you can shoot that document with your phone with the mobile app and do it and get that document in that way if you don't have access to a scanner. Even without the mobile app, one of the most common ways to get documents into Bill.com is to just shoot it with your regular camera on your phone and email it into that AP email address, right? So you'll have the ability to do either there, but that's part of the mobile app as well to make those approvals really convenient. So once a bill is approved, that's the first part, those first 2 steps of the workflow. How do we make sure that we're getting those bills coded, created, and approved, ready to make payments? Again, all of this is syncing back into the accounting solution. And then when you're ready to make payments there, your team or Dean Dorton, whoever is helping you, if you have a bookkeeping team, if it's internal, will be able to go into Bill.com and filter the bills that need to be paid. And These filters can be based on vendor, approval status, approver. Most of the time, we're saying, hey, give me all the bills that are due in the next 7 days. Give me all the bills that are due in the next 30 days. And Bill.com will present you those bills. Here, I'm saying, give me only approved bills, right? And from here, you can select those bills, hit pay, and you're done. It's that simple. Now, there's more to it than that. We'll get into those. We'll get into the weeds there, but it is that simple. I don't want to get in the weeds and think that it's a complicated process. We make it really easy. And the way we make it really easy is because over here on the right, you'll be able to select your bank account. And you can connect as many US-based bank accounts as you like. Okay. When you heard me talk about segregation of duties, this is one of those areas. So in Bill.com, you'll have roles, approvers, accountants, admins. But in addition to that, you have what's called bank authorized users. So whoever connects a bank account in Bill.com, and you can use a lot of ways to connect the bank account. You can use Plaid, you can do those micro deposits. But whoever connects the bank account also has to stipulate who are the bank authorized users in Bill.com, right? It's just in Bill.com. What that means is that's separate from their role. So I might be an admin for my nonprofit. I might be, let's say, head of IT, and I onboard clients. I onboard new employees. So I need to be an admin in Bill to be able to make them as a user. And so I need to be a super user in Bill.com, but I should not have access to move money. I should not have access to make payments. Well, you could do that in Bill. You can be an admin, and as long as the person that connected the bank account did not make me a bank authorized user, I will not be able to make any payments out of that bank account. So again, that's another reason why we have our SOC 1, SOC 2. When you put a due date on a bill, we're going to default that process date to be close to that due date so that we can make sure that we deliver that payment on or before that due date. So this bill is due on, April 26th. The system is suggesting that you process it on April 22nd so that we can deliver that payment on or before the due date. This process date is just a suggestion. This is just saying, hey, we're suggesting you do this so that you can pay the bill on time. You have the ability to change when you initiate that process date, and you can choose the next business day, right? So now I've chosen the next business day, and you'll notice my arrival dates change. The process date is the date in which we pull the funds from your bank account. The arrival date is when the vendor receives that money. So we pay in a number of different ways. Check, local transfer, virtual card, and what we call e-payment or ACH, right? ACH is the most common here, and we're paying most of our bills via ACH because of our large vendor network, all right? So Bill.com has the largest ACH network in the country. We've been doing it for 20 years. Think Venmo and Zelle, but for businesses, right? So when you have Bill.com and we connect with your accounting solution, we bring over all of those vendors, and we will tell you which of those vendors already exist in the network. About 30% of those vendors will already exist in the network, and you'll be surprised. So we'll say, hey, look, here's a match. Here's a match. Do you want to pay these vendors electronically? Boom, boom, boom. Now you're paying those vendors via ACH without having to know their bank information, right? And so it's just a really convenient way to be able to pay those vendors via ACH. If they're not on our network, you can send them an invitation. It's free to join. It's completely free for a vendor to join Bill.com and get paid. They don't pay any fees to get paid. Completely free for them. So you can invite them, and essentially you could say, look, we're using Bill.com to facilitate our payments. If you'd like to create a free account so you don't need to share your bank information with me, go ahead and jump in there and create one. Where we're a little different than Venmo and Zelle is that we have the ability for you to enter the vendor's bank information yourself. So let's say Bristol Transport calls you up and says, I do not want to join the Bill.com network, but I still very much want to get paid via ACH. Here is my routing number. Here's my account number. Go ahead and put that in and save it and pay me via ACH. When you pay a vendor via ACH through Bill.com, it's typically 1 to 2 business days, right? Really convenient, really fast. We'll also help collect those W-9s if we need to. We'll let you know if you have a W-9 for a vendor. So for like a case of Mondays, I have my W-9. It's telling me that here. I have the ability to request that W-9 if I need to. And then we will help fill out those 1099s. Now, if we can't pay a vendor via ACH, we will fall back to check. And Bill.com has 3 check printing facilities throughout the country. We try to print it as close as we can to the vendor. When we print a check for you on your behalf, let me zoom in a little bit there. This is what the check will look like. Your organization's name is in the top left. Your bank account is never exposed, okay? So you don't have to worry about your checking account number floating around out there. We pull the funds, we print the checks, we stuff the envelopes, we pay for postage, and we deliver those checks, right? The checks that we print for you are voided after 90 days. So on the 91st day, that money goes back into your bank account. And the check stub will be the first page of the bill if we're paying one bill. If we're paying multiple bills, we'll provide a remittance that looks like this, and you could pay up to 35 bills per payment. I want to pause here because we're seeing other solutions completely leave the check writing business. No one really wants to be in the check writing business. It's difficult. It's expensive. You're up. You know, the USPS is the USPS, right? But we aren't. We will never leave it because we do it at scale. 4 of the 6 largest banks use us. We will never leave it. And honestly, one of the reasons we'll never leave is because we're so big in the nonprofit space. We understand in the nonprofit space, there are times where ACH is just not possible. Many times, you know, you're sending, for example, grants or, you know, grant payments, and a check is required, and you need that document to be included, right? So, for example, we've seen a lot of nonprofits use the like the grant. I don't even know the term for it. Like, hey, here is your grant money, and this is what it is, and that's what they use as the bill, and then they make a payment to that vendor, so that actual form shows up on the check stub. So the recipient understands the money that they've received. We can, if you schedule a demo, we can get into the details of how that's worked for some other nonprofits. But again, another convenient way of where we see other people in the payment space leaving checks. We understand that it's just going to be part of our business for a really long time, and we still do it. Now, we want you to get as much on ACH as we can. But we understand there's that need to print a check from time to time. A couple other ways in which we'll make payments. You know, some vendors in our network will opt into what's called virtual card, where they want to receive a virtual credit card instead of an ACH. Why would anyone want to do that, right? Because they have to pay when they get a credit card. They pay that merchant service transaction. This is for vendors that want their money really quickly. They want their money today, and so they're willing to pay that merchant service transaction because they don't want to wait 1 to 2 business days for ACH. We will send them we'll pull the funds from your bank account, but we'll send them a one-time virtual credit card that expires in 20 days. They run that through their merchant services. They pay the transaction fee. There's no fee to you if you pay a vendor via virtual card. And then we also offer international wires. We've implemented a new feature here where you can pay vendors in their local currency and we can actually send them a international wire. And when they receive it like it came from inside of their country. It's really neat. It really helps smaller vendors. We see it in the nonprofit space that it's becoming big, especially if you're paying, you know, individuals overseas, right? Where they don't get hit with those inbound international wire fees. So let me share this document here. We have three ways in which we'll pay international vendors. You can pay international vendors in US dollars and it's $19.99. You could pay it in their local currency, and then you could do what's called local transfer. Now, local transfer is just for particular countries. We're adding about a country every week, and it's just really convenient. It's typically within 24 hours. There's no wire fees. Now, there is an exchange rate. Bill.com is not a nonprofit. We do have to keep the lights on. We make our money on the exchange rate, not on the wire fee, but there is no additional fee on top of that, right? There's no intermediary fees. And then we're going to deliver that payment to them like it came from inside of their country. Sorry for the scrolling here, but these are the countries that are participating in this. Most of your European countries, Indonesia, Malaysia, Mexico, Philippines, Portugal. Every time I check this list, there's another country added. Now, for the first two options that you see here, it's pretty much every country except your usual suspects, right? That you can't ever wire money to. So it's pretty much every single country in these two columns. This for local transfer, it's just particular countries. So the way that would work is here I have a vendor, Coco's. They're a Belgium vendor that wants to be paid in euros. Okay. So I've set them up that way. And you can see that when I hover over that $100, it's showing me the Bill.com exchange rate. Our exchange rates are competitive. So we are going to pull out of this Bank of America bank account. We'll pull out $115.50. But we'll send Coco's 100 euros. And when Coco's receives that money, it will look like it came from inside of Belgium and they won't be hit with those incoming wire fees. Now, in addition to bill approvals, we have what's called payment approvals, okay? Where if you want another layer of approvals prior to this money being released, you can implement payment approvals in our approval section, right? And they are different than a bill approval. A payment approval is really based on the funding account, okay? So here I have a payment approval for my Bank of America bank account. I could make it down to a penny. And maybe I kind of want to mimic the old school dual check signer. So Jake and Tanner both have to release these funds before that payment goes out. What it does is it kind of mimics that old school check packet where you have the check on top and all the bills that are underneath. You go and put it on the CFO's desk or the auditor's desk or whoever signs the check, and they sign them. What's neat is now when I go to my task, I could see that I need to approve 17 payments. These payments have been queued up, but they haven't been released because I haven't released them. So now I see here's a check for Winterfell Consulting for $7,081.50. It was queued up 2 years ago, so it's been waiting for a long time. The bills that it's going to pay are these three here. I can hold control and open them up, right? It's a payment can pay multiple bills. And now I have that digital check packet. So for a lot of our nonprofits that are used to checks, this is a really nice segue, okay? Where maybe you have a minister, a director that, look, they've been a director for 25, 30 years. They've signed checks with a pen for 30 years. They see every penny that goes out. This is exactly that, except in a digital form. Okay, Director J, here is your check for $7,000 that's going to Winterfell Consulting. Click on your taskbar, see the bills. It's going to pay that bill, it's going to pay that bill, and it's going to pay that bill. And here's your check. You're good with it? Yep, hit approve. Essentially, that is a digital signature on a payment, on a check. the next business day or whenever this process date is, Bill.com will send that payment. So payment approvals are a really nice segue for those nonprofits where they have leadership that really want to have eyes on every penny that leaves the organization. And again, you can do that with payment approval. So it's really convenient. Once you make these payments, you'll have complete control over all of your payments. So you'll be able to cancel or void them at any time. You'll be able to see the in-flight status of the check. Front and back of the check are here. Cancel or void it right here. Again, after 90 days, we'll let you know that the check is voided. That money goes back into your bank account. After 20 days, we notify you that the payment has not been cashed. So that'll show up as an expiring payment. And then lastly, we want to talk about how Bill.com makes reconciliation really easy. Okay. This kind of gets into the details about how we hit bank statements. So for some of you who don't do reconciliation, you can tune out. But some of you who do, it's really, really important, right? It's really, really important. And we have two ways that will allow you to do it. And Dean Dorton actually might have a preferred way. A lot of our partnerships have a preferred way where their clients follow. I probably should have asked what their preferred way is, but most clients have a preferred way of doing this. You have two options. So one is what we call our consolidated option. So if I were to pay all these bills on the 27th from the same bank account, there'll be one lump withdrawal out of my bank account for $4,385.19. And then I can run this report in Bill.com that will help with my reconciliation. And why this helps is that because we did one lump withdrawal, now I can run this report and the total on this report will match the total that's on my bank statement that got withdrawn out of my bank statement. So it'll just say Bill.com withdrawal and it'll be $4,000. So this total that I'll see will match my bank statement total. If I go find every bill here in my accounting solution, I can now reconcile many to one instead of many to many. And this slide, I think I've removed it here, but I've got it really quickly. This slide kind of helps explain that, right? Where when you create a bill in Bill.com, it creates a bill in the accounting solution, debit to expense, credit to AP. When you schedule a payment, we apply payment records back to Intact or QuickBooks or whatever accounting solution you're using. But instead of applying those with a checking account, we'll use a money out clearing account so that we keep your checking account really clean. Then when we pull the funds out of your checking account, we'll create a journal entry that debits that clearing and credits that bank account. We do this to make it reconcile that many to one instead of many to many. Some people hate that. Some people really don't like to do it that way. And that's no problem. You can change the setting so that now you'll have individual transactions on your bank statement, right? So if you want to do individual, right, you'll have Bill.com, Snyder Uniform Supply, $39.60 because we'll have one payment pay multiple bills. Then it'll say Bill.com Coco's $115.50. Bill.com Abe's Apple $293.67. Bill.com FedEx. Some people want the individual line items on their bank statement, and that's totally fine. Totally up to you on how you want to help do that reconciliation. But again, because of our syncing, we're syncing all of these payments, all of these bills back to the accounting solution. So I've talked for 40 minutes straight. If you have any Q&A, please put it in the Q&A. We will answer those. Hopefully this gave you a good understanding about Bill, have a good understanding of our user interface. We didn't talk much about fraud or dual control. That's something we're seeing a lot in the nonprofit world. I'll tell a story here really quickly. but I do want to highlight our ability to implement dual control on things in Bill.com because, again, segregation of duties is so important for us. You have the ability for in Bill.com on these 4 actions to implement dual control. So maybe if a user is added or edited, you need 2 individuals to give that approval. This is the main one I want to highlight, and I want to highlight this even if you're not using Bill.com. What we're seeing a big uptick is vendors' email accounts getting hacked. Okay. And what they'll do is they'll send you an email asking you to change vendor bank information. Now, within Bill.com, we have a whole risk team that is always looking out for when banks change. We have a KYC laws. Our fraud rate is extremely low. We're always trying to catch things on the back end in regards to vendor bank information changes, things like this. But this also makes it so that it's 100% caught, right? That when a vendor requests a vendor bank account change, you have multiple individuals approve it. Because what we're seeing is emails getting hacked. They'll send an email in saying, hey, our bank account's changed. Go ahead and change it and send payment here. And then they'll send a fake invoice. It'll be from their real email address and it will have the real logos and things like that. And so, we want all of our clients to be aware of that, even if you're not using Bill, right? That's happening. And always have multiple eyes on whenever you're adjusting a vendor's payment information, right? We're saying sometimes when that happens, the best practice is to call that vendor because sometimes you just can't trust email there. Now, that's what's really nice about our network is without credentials, they cannot change their vendor bank information there. And even when they do, they go through a risk check here at Bill.com. So just want you to be aware, we always are trying to protect our clients, letting them know. And dual control is one of those ways in which we're helping our clients, protecting our clients from paying vendors when they've been hacked. Okay, that is everything that we wanted to highlight. My name is Jay. I'm a solution consultant. You can always reach out to us. I think you all will be getting emails and follow-ups around contacts for both of our organizations. Brad, who I think is on the call but not a presenter, he is our partnership manager and contact with Dean Dorton. His email is here as well if you need to schedule a demo. And I think also Dean Dorton works with Alex Hartzell. He might be another one that reaches out to you as well. But hopefully this was informative. Thank you for everybody for coming. If you have any questions or want to see a little bit more about our solution, please let us know, and I will hang on for Q&A. So I'll pass it back to Nikki to close down, and I'll be here for any Q&A.
Thanks so much, Jay. I do not see anything in the Q&A right now, but we've still got a couple of minutes if there's anything that you want to drop in. Philip, since you're on the call today, do you want to say anything about how we work with Bill as far as integrating with accounting solutions?
Yeah, I'd be happy to. I think the one thing just to stress is that there are a lot of solutions out there today in regards to AP automation from a lot of different vendors. But the one thing that you'll get more so probably from Bill.com than a lot of others is really just a lot of experience within the Sage Intacct community and other applications. But Bill has been a longtime partner with Sage Intacct, gone through dozens of years of integration experience with them, and being able to make sure that what the end customer gets out of the whole process is just as good quality as it can be. So Bill has been and likely probably always will be one of our first choices, if not our first choice, to recommend to organizations for AP automation needs.
Thanks, Philip. So I don't see any questions right now. So we'll go ahead and give you all 13 minutes back in your day to pursue your dreams. Like I said, you will get a follow-up email with a link to the recording, contact information for the Bill and Dean Dorton teams. And keep an eye out on your email this afternoon to see if you won the gift card drawing. Thank you all and have a great rest of your afternoon.
Thanks, Nikki.